Episode 1, Rodney Elkins, know your role. What's happening?
What's happening, Bubby? Good to be here.
Dude, this would be a completely different conversation at the beginning if the quarantine wouldn't have happened.
Absolutely. We'd
We'd be
probably
talking
be on the
about
same couch somewhere.
we'd be talking about all the crazy gigs that you would have played opening for Sturgill Simpson.
Yeah, most definitely. Probably would have only been home about a week or so at this point.
And then back at okay, so if people don't already know, this is Rodney Elkins. He is the drummer for the country artist, not Americana, Tyler Childers. He was supposed to be on a big ass tour with Sturgill Simpson.
Yeah, we got 12 shows deep.
How many? That was, of course, canceled for the quarantine. How many gigs did you get in?
12.
And then how many was it supposed to be?
Up until probably about a week ago. And we came off the road like March 19th.
Yeah, because that Columbus gig that I was supposed to go to was like the week of everything shutting down, right?
Yeah, it was getting close to that one. It was probably the week after we came off the road. Yeah.
Man. So was that a 30, 40 city tour?
Yeah, something like it. Honestly, I can't remember now.
It was called a good looking tour, and it did look real good.
It was a lot, man. It was a lot. I remember, I forget where I was. The quarantine around here laxed a little bit, and I think I actually did a fam jam, like one of the first ones since quarantine happened, and it was kind of like it's a little safer. We're all good. No one's got a fever, right. And no one knows about the fam jams, but my family plays every week. And it just halted, and then everybody was kind of itching to just kind of like do it, and so we did it. And they're like, where would you have been like today? And I was like, today would have been Madison Square Garden.
So that is one of the first things I wanted to get into. Hot Rod, I've been friends with you now for everyone at home. He's Hot Rod to family. We've been friends now for probably around a decade or so. I was trying to figure out like when I met you and what girlfriend I was with when I met you. And dude, you're one of those cats where like, I don't remember how long it's been, but I feel like we've been friends forever. And I think the first thing that we bonded over was we got put into this business through family members, right? This is kind of a family business for you. For me, it was my Uncle Mike. My Uncle Mike kind of took me under his wing and, put me in those moose clubs and VFWs and legions. And it's your whole family, right? So tell me about that.
It's my whole dad's side of the family, really. Not really my mom's side of the family. But my dad is a guitar player, and he taught me some stuff on the guitar. And his brother, Dave, who's like 4 or 5 years older than him, and then his identical twin brother, Ronnie.
I didn't know they were twins.
Yeah, identical twins. They had that freaky twin thing that you hear about,
right?
Like I'll never forget as a kid, my dad just looking at us and being like, "There's something wrong with Ronnie," And then he lived in Florida most of my life, and he'd be like, "Something's wrong with Ronnie," and then someone like his daughter would call or something and be like, "Well, he's in the hospital, his back's out," or something like that, and he just knew.
So did that like manifest when they played together?
Yeah, most definitely, man. They have the sickest 3-part harmonies I've ever heard my entire life. I wish I had an iPhone or something as a kid growing up. I started playing with them when I was 12. They've had a band since probably the late 50s.
Holy shit.
Something like that. And yeah, essentially like different variants and stuff like that. But since about then, since my Uncle Dave came back from the service, and then my dad left for the service in the early 60s and came back in like 63, 64. And then they've been doing it ever since. My Uncle Ronnie didn't even play bass. He played guitar. So it was my Uncle Dave on acoustic rhythm, and he was a great singer, has the range of like Roy Orbison. And my dad was a lead guitar player, sang his ass off, and my Uncle Ronnie played guitar and sang, and I think Dad needed a bass player one night, and they just kind of went out and bought a bass. He goes, "Here you go. It's on a Monday or something. I don't know what year." And then he says, "You got to play Saturday night, so you need to learn all you can." And so that's kind of how he started playing bass. And my whole life, I didn't come around till about 88, and definitively 88.
Right.
And was always going to gigs when they would get together. My Uncle Ronnie would come in from Florida. He was living in Florida for a while at the time, and then he moved back in like 2000, and I was about when I was about 12, and they started playing again, with Uncle Ronnie and my Uncle Dave, and this guy Jackie Bell who played steel. He did tours with like Loretta Lynn and stuff, and he's from around here. And I started playing drums, and they were nice enough to let me, kind of learn. He always said, "Kiss it, Bubby." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he'd say, first off, he would say, "Keep it simple, shithead."
Yep.
And so that's how I learned to play drums.
How many times have you heard "Keep it simple, shithead" in the last 3 years in your life? Like in your head? Like how many times have you thought of that?
Have I thought about it? Probably when I would think I was doing too many fills or like getting too busy in a song.
Right.
And then I'd just hear my dad just looking at me. Just with his no old man eyebrows, just like,
that's great.
"Kiss it, bub."
That's great. Well, so me and you are in a band, or was in a band. We played together a bunch actually,
Absolutely.
and we played some of your dad's. Those were your dad's songs, or one of them was like an aunt's song.
Yeah, so I have a little book of poetry that was my Aunt Claudere's. My dad's the youngest. My dad and my Uncle Ronnie, they were 10 minutes apart. They're identical twins, and they were the youngest of 9, I'm pretty sure.
Whoa.
So it was 5 girls and 4 boys. The oldest boy, my Uncle Lecco, died in World War II.
Okay.
In January of 44 in Italy. So he's buried over there, and he played music first, and then it was my Uncle Dave, my dad, and my Uncle Ronnie, and then there was 5 girls.
Okay.
I've only met a few of them.
So
my Aunt Gay's still around.
So these songs that we've performed in your band, give a shout out to that band, huh, Rod?
Oh, El Dorado, baby.
Damn right. So like they're 3 or 4 of some of the best country songs I've ever heard.
Yeah. I mean, they were pretty intuitive with all that stuff. It's amazing because even the last couple days, my dad and my Uncle Dave are still around, and so is my Aunt Gay. So they're the only 3 left. Uncle Ronnie's no longer with us.
Mm-hmm.
Miss him every day. We went to my Aunt Gay's house. I had Dad and Uncle Dave over Saturday for dinner, and Dad was like, it was about 9 o'clock, and Dad said, "Well, Uncle Dave brought his guitar, and he was thinking about going to Aunt Gay's and playing music."
Right.
And, I knew it was late. They were in their 70s and their 80s. I knew they didn't have a whole lot of drive time left.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because it's dark. But I just started clearing plates. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "We're going over there." And we went over there and sang. And just listening to my dad and my Uncle Dave sing again together, like we've played a lot. And I've noticed it a lot, and I haven't noticed it a lot. But being in that intimate setting, hearing the way they sang, that whole family, that whole side of the family just had this intuitive grit and just like country persona and this just like honky tonk sound that when they open their mouths, it comes out.
I mean, that's what they call authenticity.
Yeah, they were super authentic.
There's a bunch of motherfuckers running around Nashville that would pay big money to get that shit implemented.
Yeah, and I mean, we were about 20 minutes in to just picking guitar. My dad's got Parkinson's now, and he's had it for years, but it's just now getting pretty bad. So I was playing guitar, my Uncle Dave was playing guitar, and about 20 minutes in, excuse me, I just pulled my phone out of my pocket and hit the voice recorder and set it on the table.
Yes.
And I was like, I gotta get this.
Yeah.
You know, I gotta get it. Like, this ain't gonna last forever. I gotta get some of this.
Man, you need to take him up to Brother James's studio and just get some of that shit recorded.
Oh yeah, it's probably gonna happen. We're definitely gonna do something like that for
That
sure.
needs to happen. And then we need to record those songs because those songs are so fucking good.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
okay,
sir.
so did you play guitar before you played drums?
Technically, yes.
So you already like your dad was showing you chords and stuff before you even got to drums.
Yeah. I always loved the drums. We'd be at VFW, so I would be at these VFWs, American Legions, 5 different local fire departments, dances and stuff, and you know, I was sitting in chairs, swinging my legs, just enamored with the drum.
So who was the drummer for their band?
First off was Danny Forth.
Okay.
I think it was his last name. Forth or Adkins, I can't remember. I think it's Danny Forth. Well, no one needs to know that. But his name was Danny.
Okay.
He had this, I call him jelly beans. You know what I'm talking about when I say a jelly bean drum set?
Yeah, just mismatched.
It's all mixed match, dude. He had all these different Ludwig drums that didn't match each other. And like looking back now, I can see it in my head. I have a few photo albums that when my Uncle Ronnie passed, I came in like possession of. And I can see it and I'm looking at it and just knowing what I know now, like the different eras he had put together.
Okay.
Like he had a 60s Blue Oyster floor tom. He had a late 70s Ludwig kick, and he had the Black Oyster like 60s rack tom, you know, and he always did that thing, you know, you see those guys that turn their boom stands upside down and then
go
put
over
their
their head.
cymbals like the wing nuts underneath.
Oh, like Scott Rockenfield and Queensryche.
Yeah. So he did that too, and I was like, "That's weird. I'll never do that."
Yeah, it's real weird.
But I always thought those drums were the coolest thing, and he let me play on them a lot.
Well, you know, now that you're a Ludwig endorser, you should have them put together the drum set that would have matched the Elkins family band drum set.
Oh my gosh. I'll have to dig out some pictures, and I'll talk to my guy Ryan about that.
Right? I mean, that would, dude, your dad would fucking love that.
Oh,
right?
yeah. He probably won't even remember. He'll be like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. Whatever."
He didn't know that you were
like
the one you were the one staring at the drum.
He's like, "I play guitar, boy. I don't even know what the drums are."
Well, so if people watch the channel, I did a video on you. You're doing White House Road, and a bunch of the commenters were, cats from where you live, and they were all talking about like, man, I saw him out Wayne County playing guitar like 15 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
So you were you performing guitar with your dad?
No, a few times in high school. So I didn't go to I missed like my junior year prom and stuff like that because I had gigs with dad. And it was the Midway City Opry House in basically like Lesage, Culloden area of West Virginia, and we played there and I played drums, but it was always like the switcheroony is what me and like Craig from the bass player in Tyler's band.
Craig Burley.
What we would,
bass player.
Great guy. Love him to death.
Shout out Beeblebrox.
Shout out. And we did a switcheroony where I don't even know who would play drums at the time. But I would get up and I would play 2 or 3 songs on the guitar and sing. And then I would play banjo.
You played banjo too?
And this banjo.
Uh-oh.
And I was always impressed with this big old eagle in the middle of it. But
Dude, I would play. Idea you owned that.
I would play this banjo too, and we would do like "Man of Constant Sorrow," and we would do "He's in the Jailhouse Now."
Okay, so I now know about what era that would have been.
It was just like the here's our young kid in the band.
Right.
Feature him for a second. And
that's
awesome.
awesome.
I got my rocks off doing that, but I mean, it was always the drums, man. But I learned a lot from my dad playing guitar, and I took every music class I could from 6th grade on, and then eventually got my degree.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Kind of the next step there was, so were you were already like gigging before you even went into marching band in high school, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, I probably had the most money any 7th grader had in his pocket.
Oh, for sure, man.
Like at a certain point, because going back to Craig, mentioning Craig again, I was telling him because Craig was a metal kid in high school.
Okay.
So, and I knew he played bass, and I needed a bass player. And I told him, I was like, look, man, I'm trying to play guitar a little more, like start a little band. And I told him, as soon as you get paid, you're a professional.
I mean,
because that's what my dad and uncles told me. Yeah. I was 12 years old. It was like September 22nd, 2000. I played my first gig, and that was at the Barbersville Senior Citizens Home.
Nice.
It was their dance.
Okay.
And they hand me like $150, almost $200, something like it. And I mean, we didn't make that much, but these are old guys. They're in like their 50s or something at the time.
They all have like straight real jobs too.
Yeah, like I think my Uncle Dave gave me his cut, and like Jackie Bell, the steel player, gave me his cut, and it was just like they handed it to me, and I was in a white button-up shirt, black vest, because that's what you wore. You wore a black vest, a white button-up shirt, jeans. I think I had on khakis though, because I was in the middle school band. You had to wear khakis.
Yep.
This is 2000, bud. And everybody was in denim and cowboy boots, and my Uncle Dave was the only one who was in all denim because he was the front man.
Damn right.
And we were all matching, and then they just hand me the money, and they're like, "You're a professional now. You've played your gig. You got paid. You're a professional musician now."
There you go. I mean, and my Uncle Mike, who was a mechanic, he's a Ford mechanic on the side. And then, I was gigging with him. And did your family call them jobs? They never said gigs. My Uncle Mike always said like, well, Stevie, we got a job, in Jackson, Ohio this weekend or whatever.
It was always gigs. It was always gigs. It's like or shows.
Like those old timers, they always kind of thought of it. It's like, this is a job,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was always shows to at least my dad. He's like, "Oh, you got a show?" Even if I was like, "Hey, Dad, I'm playing at Black Sheep or V Club," and he's like, "Oh, you got a show?" Like, yeah. It was always like I don't know what you would call it. Kind of like, a hark back to the old like cavalcade shows.
Right.
Like you had a day where you went and saw a show where a bunch of bands would play and at some theater or whatever, and he would just call them shows.
Yeah, I think my Uncle Mike just was that blue collar, like, this is a job, Stevie. You got to get this job. So you were doing like the fucking 4 hour to the face Friday through Sundays.
Oh, yeah. Especially after high school.
You get those chops together, man. They, like these kids today, when they do their original music and do a 45-minute or an hour set, like, man, I did that. Well, I mean, and again, this is where I think we bonded so quickly because we came up kind of that same way. Was, man, 45 on, 15-minute break, better be on time. And then the last set's an hour.
Uh-huh.
You're playing. That's a lot of music in a weekend, and
that's at least depending 8 to 12 to 15 songs an hour.
Like, yeah,
depending on what you're playing and how however long your Johnny B. Goods and your Mustang Sallies go.
Oh, Muskrat Annie. Yeah, buddy. So you've been gigging with the Elkins family band, and then you get into high school. you have you have more money than anyone else at that age because you're gigging on the weekends.
Well, I pissed it all away.
Well, yeah, I mean,
didn't save a dime
eighth
of it.
grader going to do with all that money? We're going to fucking buy.
I bought
condoms.
Western shirts and boots and stuff.
Of course. So then, and this is something we talk about on the channel all the time. You went to Drumline, right? So like you were probably one of the first. You probably were one of those guys as a freshman that didn't have butterflies on his first performance because you're like, shit, I've already done 100 gigs up until this. It's just another gig.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a different gig to me, so I still had a little bit of anxiety because I'm just an anxietal person to begin with.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Oh yeah.
Everything makes me nervous at some point, but it's how you deal with it is what gets you out of it. But most definitely had some butterflies just because I wanted to do well. I was a part of a team at that point. It wasn't just me. I was a part of a team in my dad's band to an extent, but with the Drumline, it was like, it has to be perfect.
Yeah. Because also for the people at home who don't know, he was going to probably top 2, top 3 Drumline in the state on a regular basis for years and years and years.
Campbell Midland High School has most definitely set a precedent for high school drum lines.
Dude, did you see them last year? I went and saw them last year, and man, they were fucking ridiculous.
I haven't seen them in years.
Ooh, I went there and hung out with. I went there and hung out with brother Jared, and man, they were to the wall.
Well, Jared's my best friend in the world, and
I didn't know y'all had that matching tattoo.
Oh yeah, we got the same Bubby tat. So this is I think it's the 39 Slingerland snare drum.
So
patent
like
picture. King. Yeah, it's the patent picture without all the words and diagrams and stuff. But we have the same one. We got it about a year or so ago. But funny story. We did those rhyming dates this year in February, and it was my lady's birthday, so she came down, and we had a nice week of it, and almost like 5 days, 6 days, and we went and ate at this place in East Nashville that was kind of like a cafeteria, but had all these different like awesome restaurants in it. And I'm getting I think I'm getting something like an apple pie, something whatever hipster dessert thing. And I was like, I'll take that apple pie right there. And he goes, do you play banjo? Like, how long have you been playing banjo? I was like, excuse me? And he goes, I just noticed your banjo tat, man. I play a little banjo too. And I was like, that's a snare drum, brother. He's like, what banjo are you playing with 2 strings on it?
But little does he know you also play banjo.
No. I mean, I know like 4 songs that can barely do the Scruggs roll.
Technically playing banjo.
I know if you hit them all without touching them, it's G.
My Uncle Mike used to say, man, you need 3 chords. If you know 5, you're a jazz musician.
Exactly.
So you're drumlining. You're in one of the best drum lines in the area. Mm-hmm. You are smoking everybody on competition. So how many times did you do like a competition on Saturday day and then like straight to your dad's gig after that?
Not as many as you'd think. There was a few times I had to do that.
Okay.
It mostly that happened when I got to college.
Okay. So that's where we're going with this. So you're drumlining all through high school. You're playing guitar, and then you had a band where you play guitar, right?
Mm-hmm.
In high school.
The El Dorado started when we were in high school.
Okay, and that's going to be the next thing I want to get to is the what I think is one of the all-time great stories that's going on in music right now is these 3 best friends from high school who've been playing together for years and years and years, gets picked up by, the messiah of country music, but that's later. So then you went to college for music, right?
Yep, went to Marshall University in town.
Go Herd.
State tuition, so it was a little cheaper than in-state tuition was a little cheaper than I also wanted to head to Nashville after high school, but I guess my anxiety took over, and
we're going to talk about that because you owe me a bottle later on. We're going to talk about how you owe me a bottle.
Okay, because you're gonna have to remind me.
It's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one. It's actually, if I've ever done good in the world, this might be the one time that I did.
All right.
So who did you study with when you were up Marshall? And were you in the jazz program, or were you going through like the classical track?
I started out on the classical track first.
Okay.
And I studied, it was with Steve Hall,
Yes.
who's a local legend,
Yes,
and just an amazing drummer. So intuitive,
Yep.
just like he has his touch and this way of doing things that, I always admired.
He's never wrong. That's what I've always
thought. That's correct. And I've seen, like, I don't even want to say hundreds, because I can't even put a number on the concerts I've seen him play in different scenarios. Classical, like keyboard mallet stuff, drum set, African percussion, hand drums, djembes, aux percussion, like tambourines, being in the orchestra playing suspended cymbals and stuff like that. And it's just like, man, this guy's got a touch that he is just never wrong.
Never. And you know my favorite thing about that dude is he's a big metalhead on top of all that.
Yeah. I'll never forget lessons. He'd be like, I'll come in and he'd just be doing this.
Right.
I'd be like, what's up? And he's like, just got tickets to Five Finger Death Punch.
That's great. But like that, man,
hell yeah, Steve.
Dude, I watched a clinic of his once, and that motherfucker didn't pick up a drum. And all he did was just talk about his experiences. Like, I think it was his experiences traveling abroad, like maybe going to Brazil, maybe Africa.
Oh no, he went to like Ghana and Africa and stuff, and like did a bunch of
it was one of the best clinics I've ever seen, and he didn't play a note.
Yeah. No, he's always been great. I was very lucky to he caught me at a time where I wasn't the most studious at the same time.
I hear
so you. The caveat to me being in college was I was on the classical track ish. If you ask Steve, he's like, what classical track? Like, what are you talking about? You didn't do that. And I'm like, well, I was doing, the timpani and the snare drum.
You played a multi-percussion piece. You're on the classical track.
Yeah, and well, I was just in like symphonic band. I did my my core music stuff, music theory, my aural skills, and stuff like that. And then the recession hit. And
so we're talking 08, 09?
08. So I went straight. I graduated high school 06. Went straight into college. And then about 08, my grades weren't that great. And I was told I was a high-risk student to keep giving money to. So they were cutting fat, and my grades weren't the best, and I was kind of just a little burnt out on the whole symphony and kind of track and doing concert bands and stuff like that. I mean, I've done it. I had done it since like 6th grade,
right?
Like concert band stuff. And in like 6th grade, 7th grade, you're doing your hot cross buns and all that other stuff. But I feel like I've been very fortunate that from middle school to my whole track, I've made a constant effort to make whatever I'm in to try to be the best.
Right.
And so like, we were going to ratings in middle school, and I was like, guys, we gotta do this. We gotta do this well.
You have to get ones across the board.
Yeah, it's all ones, baby. And then like in high school, I was in everything. I had my toes in everything. I played drums for the show choir, and we did concert band stuff. It was me and my best friend Jared we were talking about, or captains of the Drumline my junior and senior year. And he's a year older than me, so his junior and senior year, and we were co-captains there my senior year, or my junior year and his senior year, and we were doing like all county band. I tried out for All-State. I never made it.
Man, dude, here's the thing. All-State percussion is fucking hard.
It's really hard.
Because here's the thing. If you're a trumpet player, you get to just go play trumpet. And then, you're playing obviously crazy, insane stuff, right? But then to do all, I made, all the all counties and some all regions or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I did all area.
All
that was the
state,
next
you got to
one.
be like master fucking snare drummer, which we always were because we were marching band kids.
Yeah.
Great timpani player, marimba player.
No, I couldn't do that. That was my fault.
What is it?
I couldn't play the keyboard stuff. That was my fault because since the 6th grade, and I was playing drums with my dad and was just playing drum kit, always doing jazz band and all this other stuff. They just threw my ass on a bass drum or a snare drum for like 4 years. 4 or 5 years, and then I get, my freshman in high school. I try out for the snare line. I make it. One of the few freshmen that have made. I think there was only like 2 other cats that made snare line freshman year when I got there in 2002. And I mean, Midland's only been in high school since '95.
Right.
And so I was doing that, and then in concert band, I was always, playing the ratchet.
Yeah.
Or the or the sand blocks.
Yep.
And
so then when you go, so for people who don't know, when a percussionist tries out for all state, you have to play 4 or 5 different instruments.
It's 3 areas.
Right.
It's timpani. Timpani's an area by itself.
Yep.
And then you got your snare piece, and then you have a keyboard, mallet, something. I never played keyboard mallets until I was a junior, senior in high school.
See, I didn't do it until I was a freshman in high school or in college.
Somehow I skirted around all the mallet stuff.
Me too. It didn't seem fun. Like I wanted to play drums.
I just couldn't like read the music. See, I could hit the things, but there was that third element of, it's like a piano for people that don't know what a keyboard.
Yeah, playing
piano, like your marimbas, your vibes.
Fingers.
Yeah, you got your white keys and you got your black keys up top. That's all a keyboard mallet thing is. And for me, starting out, it was reading it, and then it taken so long to read the notes, like the pitches, looking down, hitting where I needed to hit, and then remember where those notes were on the thing.
Yeah.
Never got good at it.
Well, because it's one of those things where, like, you just described my first 2 years of college of trying to catch up, because a lot of that too is where we're from. We're from Appalachia, and the music programs, even though you're lucky to have been in one of the best in the area, like, dude, I think we had like a xylophone. Like we had like a xylophone and like a bell. And, we know of other, bigger city music programs. You'll be getting that, because they have more money. They are going to teach. They're not going to let that snare drummer just be a snare drummer tenor player. They're going to make them, do that keyboard. So a lot of that was just where we are. Where we were. Like
I said, I was so lucky to have been in the programs I was in, especially in our state. And you know that because, what you just said, you came from a not so funded program.
Funding was a rumor.
To be full disclosure right now,
Yep.
They called people that went to Cabell Midland the rich kids.
Yeah.
And I was a honky from Salt Rock, like living in Barbersville. Like my address was technically Barbersville, but I was in Salt Rock in 10 minutes.
Right.
If that.
Okay.
I wasn't in unincorporated Salt Rock. I didn't live there.
Right.
But I went to elementary school there, and then I was in Barbersville Middle School, Cabell Midland High School. And it's like, man, I couldn't help going to the school I went to.
Right.
You didn't have to call me a rich kid because, God dang, I was not. Like, I was just lucky enough that there was 3 or 4 snare drums. We had 4 snares, 2 tenors, 5 basses every year on the drum line, and 4 or 5 cymbals on the line or whatever. I remember the year we stopped marching cymbals too.
They need to do that more. I miss that. High school, almost all high schools put the cymbals on the pit. I wish they still.
And I feel like I was around for when that became cool.
And then drum sets,
like 04, 05 area, and they put the marching cymbal players in the pit.
Yeah, and put cymbals on the
Because
racks.
what did you do in Drumline? Like, people that couldn't play as well as people that were on flat drums.
Right. Right.
Cymbals,
Right.
pit.
Yep.
You threw them on the cymbals or you put them in the pit.
And that would have been right around when drum set became more of a thing in marching band.
Yeah.
Which, as much as a drum set lover I am, it still bothers me. It bothers me to see drum set in marching band.
I think it's cool. I think it's cool all because, we play
right.
drums.
So now
and you
we're
get to hit the crap out of them.
And yeah, that's another thing. You don't have to really worry about being too loud because you're in front of a fucking 150 piece marching band. So we're up to Marshall, and you had to maybe take a break in like 08, but then of course you eventually went back and finished it. I know you finished it because that was at your senior recital.
Yeah. So about 08, I had to take a break, and I was just kind of confused and didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was out for 3 semesters, and I was still gigging.
Has the deadbeat started by then?
Has not.
Okay.
Has not.
We'll get into that later.
Sad story. There's a lot to talk about, and if I hit this mic one more time with my hand gestures,
I mean,
we're gonna have a problem.
That's why I have mine off to the side.
Yeah, I tried to, but I got it hanging down right here, and I'm Judy chopping my hands. But so when I got out of high school, this whole time that I'm in my first round of college, I am playing guitar 4 nights a week in a bar band.
This is not the Elkins band.
This is my cousin Chris, who is the son of my dad's identical twin. He plays bass. Okay. I'm playing guitar. We started playing in this. He called me about the later half of 06 when I started college. And was like, look, our guitar player's leaving. I'm playing this band called the Big Fun Band. And I hated the name.
All those bands have those terrible names.
But it was just like, man, it's a band to play in that's already kind of established. They got gigs. I haven't really been gigging that much. Up to that point, El Dorado, the entity of El Dorado, had won 2 high school talent shows and played a couple coffee shops, and that was it. Right. And the lineup was always changing. Okay. There was one gig I had at a coffee shop where my dad, my Uncle Dave, and my cousin Chris had to come fill in because I didn't have a band. It was just me. And so my family was always there to pick up the slack if I had a gig with El Dorado to do whatever. So my cousin Chris was involved with El Dorado a little bit, either playing bass or playing drums. Okay. My Uncle Ronnie played bass one gig and Chris played drums. And I was just like, well, here's the songs. Right. And they played them. And I had a good time. I think there's a couple VHSs out there about it. So now you're playing in Big Fun, and then eventually you're going to get back into college and you're going to finish up. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm playing VFWs, American Legions, whatever bar we can get into. And I had the epiphany. I was doing musicals at the time too. The Summer Theater, Huntington Outdoor Theater, hot. And that was payday, buddy. Yeah, boy. You played Friday, Saturday, Sunday for 4 weeks in a row. Yep. You had 1 week of rehearsal, 4 weekends of shows. Like, you learned the music in 1 week, and then did the shows every weekend. I mean, that was $1,000. Yeah, buddy. That's shitting in hot cotton right there. And that was like, I have to do this. I have to do this every time they ask me. Oh, yeah. And I remember sitting in my car on a break. Maybe not even a break. We had to get there at a certain time to set up, and then the pre-show started. So it was like kids or whatever did like the first show. And I'm just sitting in my car thinking, I have to finish school. Like, I hate not being in school right now. I feel like I'm being judged for quitting and because I wasn't doing anything other than playing guitar 4 nights a week and doing, like, once the summer hit, doing that. Right. And so I went back that fall of like 11.
That'd have been right about the time we met, probably, is what I would guess.
And then I realized that there was a jazz program.
Yeah.
And it kind of like started when I started college, like 06, 05, 06.
Right.
And I talked to Steve and I was like, I want to play drum set. Like, is there, like, I can pick my instrument to be a jazz major. You got your sax majors, you got your trumpet majors. Why can't I play drum set?
Right.
So basically, they invented the major for me. And they were
pioneer.
They were just like, well, you should probably take this class, and this class, you know. And I was like playing keyboards. Like, I did some vibes for like my improv classes. I did piano on my later half of improv classes because they started like splitting them up and it was weird. But that's when I started like really learning the drum set, learning styles. Then I had to audition. I had to learn 4 styles. I had to do a rock. I had to do a bossa nova. I had to do a samba. I had to do a songo. Oh, and a brush. It was 5. It was 5.
Okay. So that is where, you know, when we that's when we became friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, because we gotta weave this in. So the Deadbeats, you know, you had a band called the Deadbeats and Barkers.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably around that time.
Yeah. So November 09. Wait. Yeah. Yeah, it was 09. I feel like I'm getting my timelines all messed up now. It's a little bit of a blur.
We don't care about timelines. Just at some point, Deadbeats and
Barkers. At some point, Craig Burletic comes in and he was like, he comes into Marshall and he was, I was late for math class. So I just didn't go. And I'm getting coffee out of the machine. It was like one of the old machines where you hit the button, the cup falls, coffee's coming out. This is before Starbucks took over Marshall.
Right.
And he comes in, he's like, Bub, need a drummer. Me and James talked it over. We only want you. And I was like, yeah, love to.
Because this is the thing because I think this is the story. You know, if Tyler fans are going to, you know, watch this is going to be, I think, one of the more interesting parts of the whole road that led you to playing, you know, on a national prominence type scale.
It happened that fast.
Your band that is playing right now with Tyler, and we're about to get to that. Everyone who's here for the Tyler stuff, we're about to get there. You've got a band in college. It's Deadbeats and Barkers, playing all the time. This is when I met you, because I think you did some recording out of Bud's. Then you all are just playing all the time. You have a legendary jam night every Sunday.
Every Sunday. So that's what kicked it off. And it was 09. I did go back in college in 09. I think I quit in 07 now that I think about it.
We don't care
about
been
a lot of beers since I quit.
We don't care about dates around here.
But it was like November 09 because we recently so when we were on tour, like last November, December, I was like, boys, we're 10 years deep.
So here is the story for you Tyler fans. Deadbeats and Barkers. It was a band that Hot Rod, Craig Burletic, and brother James Barker was in.
Yep.
Outside of that scene, you've got this, you know, redheaded crooner that is just blowing up, and he needs a band. And before we get into that, here is the one good thing that I've ever maybe able to ever pull off. Is I remember you had just graduated. We saw your fantastic senior recital where you played Someday My Prince Will Come, which is my all-time favorite. It's called jazz cover, standard. Dude, my all-time favorite jazz standard. And you were talking about going on to Belmont. And you're like, well, I think I need to go to Belmont. And you had already started kind of playing with Tyler. And I remember us setting out back of the store we worked at, and me being like, "What, dude? Fuck Belmont!" Like, because I know what you were doing. Because a lot of people do this. You know, you felt that you were talking about going to Nashville, right? You wanted to go to Nashville, and that's where you go. Where if you're from the areas that we were from, that's where you go, right? It's a lot cheaper to live there than in New York City or LA.
Mm-hmm.
And you had Tyler just kind of started using the Deadbeats and Barkers as his backing band.
Well, we
And
forced him.
is that how it worked? Did y'all just go over
Well,
there?
not really forced him. It was just like, you need a band, brother. So
dude, we did the
we
same
were
thing.
Deadbeats and Barkers. We did like 69 Sundays in a row.
Yeah.
We were just like at Shamrocks, and it was amazing. Met all you guys there. You know, you were playing with Bud and the Southern Souls at the time. Met like Meister Hans of the Demon Beat, all the Quiet Folks, everybody like that. And that was when I was like first in the scene, because I was just playing like biker parties and stuff with that like crappy band. And then we were doing that the whole time I was in college, and Craig was in college doing jazz bass the whole time that I was doing jazz drums. And so we were like double dipping, like playing with each other in college, playing each other in the gigs. And then Tyler started coming around and playing his songs, and we played a gig at Shoop's, the defunct Shoop's in Huntington, and just like, man, you're amazing. You know,
dude,
like, you need a band.
I've known
he was like, well,
I
don't know. I was just like, we just kept hounding them. And then I booked us a gig. The first country music festival in Cincinnati. And so he's like, well, we can't play covers. So we started playing the songs.
So that gets back to, you were wanting to go to Nashville, go to Belmont, get your master's in percussion. But then you had this Tyler thing happening. And I was like, dude, this is better. It's like, all those motherfuckers that are running around Nashville wish they had a Tyler. Because as drummers, that's what we're for, right? We're there for, us drummers, we're there to serve. We're serving. We have to find that master who serves, and that master who serves needs to have a great voice and great songs, because
the songs are amazing. That's what all we were about. And coming from where I come from and just having a love of country music, that's what instantly when I heard them, I was like, I want to make that music. I want to make those songs better. I want to amplify those songs with drums.
So because he played as a solo artist forever and ever. So what we're coming to here is, we've heard about this amazing foundation that you were able to lay down for yourself through playing with your parent, or with your family, through going through kids at home. This is an education channel. Listen up. Playing with your family, playing gigs constantly, being in marching band, getting that together, going to Marshall and doing some classical stuff, and then the jazz stuff. So, when, what is that the baseball coach always said? Luck is when opportunity
meets preparation, or something
preparation.
Like that.
So you have been spending your whole life pretty much preparing for what you're doing right now. And this is where we're going to get into, right? I mean, it had to feel like, here is now finally to fruition what you've been doing since you were 12. You said 12 was when you first started with the Elkinses.
Well, it was a love of country music that really lit the fire for me, because we played that Buckle Up music festival together, and it was like, at first it was a little bit of a joke, like our buddy Jack Browning was like, y'all should play together and be the Food Stamps. And we were like, oh, that's great, man. Maybe we'll do that. And like, we would see each other, we'd play the same gigs, down the line a little bit, and be like, hey man, when's Food Stamps practice? And we'd crack a beer and just laugh about it and talk and hang out. And then I think we played a birthday party and played a couple times just doing covers. And then I submitted, we went and recorded 2 tracks, Feathered Indians and Wailin' on My Willie, and I sent it to the Buckle Up people, and they were like, yeah, you'll have this slot. And if you ask those boys, I told them we were going to play in front of 50,000 people, but those emails that I got, they made it out like we were playing in front of 50,000 people, but we were on like the 6th stage, like miles away. I had no idea what a festival was at this point. And I'd been to Bonnaroo twice, but I didn't think you know, I don't know. I don't book gigs, man.
So
And
you booked like the first kind of out of state Tyler gig with a
yeah,
band, because he played a
and
bunch before
yeah,
that.
and then the first time we played his songs, like Feathered Indians, White House, stuff like that.
And then you all just become a supernova.
Well, I'll tell you this. We drank Marty Stewart's beer.
Yes.
Because he was a stage away. We got to meet him, and we ran out of beer. So we went, and Tyler was like, I don't think Marty Stewart's drinking his beer. And he was like, I'm going to go up there and check it out. And it was just me and him. And I was like, well, I can't let him go alone. You know, so we went up there, and we just kind of pour our beers out of the kegerator that they have. And we're just kind of standing there, and we're just introduce ourselves. And he was just like, thank you for being here, you know, and like, hope y'all enjoy the show. And we went out front, and I was standing with James. I think Craig was standing with Tyler, and we weren't in like the same vicinity for some reason. I mean, we'd been drinking, so Lord knows how we got split up. But
Right.
we watched that show, and he comes out, and the Superlatives, his band, are in these purple suits.
Oh, they always look so cool.
He walks out, and all he does is just go, "Stop the world and let me off," and they just go into wailing. And by the end of that show, I'm crying a little bit. James is crying, and I think I look at James, and I'm like, I'm doing this for the rest of my life. I don't know with who or how, or I want to make this work, and this is what I'm doing. I'm going to play country music for the rest of my life.
And then how many shows have you played with Marty Stewart since that first gig?
Twice. We did Tumbleweed Music Festival. We were the perfect little sandwich. We were the meat of Del Watson, us, Marty Stewart, and that was the first time since we'd saw him, and that amazing performance on our first gig. And
has he set in with you all?
No, he has not set in with us. And then most recently, February, he opened up for us at the Ryman when we did the Ryman shows. So and I'll tell you what, they are the best show on the planet.
Dude, I've seen the Superlatives a few times. I mean, that's the shit. So now we're into the meat of this now. So you all are on this meteoric rise with Tyler, because Tyler just comes out of nowhere. We knew about him in our area, in the Appalachian area that we were from. And he was our little kept secret, and everyone knew that it was going to happen. Everybody knew. I don't think anyone knew how gigantic it was going to become, but we all knew that it was going to happen. So, you know, it's so much, especially in the country music scene, and this is not a reprimand of how Nashville country music works, but, you know, you have an artist, and an artist puts a band together with whatever money he or she can put together, and then you have, like, you know, a piece together band of hot rod players, of amazing players. But you all more organic. You all, you know, were with him from the beginning of him getting there. So you all have kind of made you're playing a part of his style.
Yeah, I mean, he threw his style out there all his own, which I think is what we've adapted to a little bit, but we're all just like country music fans.
Right.
You know, and I think that we're all trying to do the best job and presenting genuine country music to the best of our abilities.
Well, it's kind of like, you know, I call it the Four Horsemen, because not enough people think about Hank 3, because he was doing this shit too. But it's kind of, you know, the people who are trying to, you know, save, and there's more than this, obviously. But, you know, you're thinking Tyler, you're thinking Sturgill, you're thinking Hank 3, for me anyway. And then sort of Chris Stapleton, which I've always said that Chris Stapleton's kind of more of a soul singer than a, you know, traditional country artist. But
he's got a wide range.
But, yeah, he does. But you all are kind of not just a band that's big now, and this is where I get to be fanboy to one of my best friends. Like, you all are like changing the course of country music now. You know what I mean? Like, you all are like, man, I was going out with a girl. She was a huge Miranda Lambert fan, and she like sent me like Miranda Lambert is, tweeting out lyrics from White House Road. Like, you all are changing, and you're doing it outside of the system. Like, I think his records were recorded in Nashville, weren't they?
Yes.
Okay, but you're not a Nashville band. You cats are all from Appalachia. Like, his band is from West Virginia, Kentucky.
Yes.
And he lives, Tyler probably won't see this because I don't think he has internet at his house. You'll have to show this next time you see him on a phone. But you all are doing it outlaw style, like real outlaw shit. You're a real fucking like real outlaw, and not hashtag outlaw, like real shit. You all are changing it through just the force of nature that is Tyler's songwriting and his voice that makes you want to, like, here's the thing, man. Dude, when I broke up with Kelly, I went to the Tyler show, and it was like one of them breakups. I was like, I want to fucking jump off this fucking bar right now. This is how good this is. This is making me want to kill myself because man, no one writes a fucking love or like a heartbroken love song and then sings it like that. It's fucking stupid. And he's doing it with a band from an area that has no commercial potential. You know what I mean? People don't know what's going on around here.
He's amazing. He the way he puts words together in song form just like floors me every time. And I've tried to write songs and I can't help but compare it to his songs all the time.
That's hard.
And I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I just know what he presents and what I know that's good. And it's like, if it ain't that or better, I just need to throw it away.
Well, I mean, that's that's fucking hard, dude. That's like being like, I can't do this drum part until it's as good as John Bonham. You know what I mean? Like, you're dealing with one of the all-time greatest lyricists of all time.
Yeah, man. He's. Did I say how lucky I am right now? Did I say that?
Well, but see, that's kind of what this episode is about, though, is you got to be lucky because you had prepared yourself. All that time when a voice walked in the door, you were ready day one to produce and make shit happen. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like you're just like, I'm just fucking hot rod walking down the avenue and lucked into it.
Absolutely.
You've got all of this backstory, and that's kind of what I'm hoping to, because again, this is a music education channel that people will see, is like, you got to be fucking ready because you never know.
Yeah, you never know. For me, it's the love of country music. And like, Tyler shown me so much about bluegrass that I did not know about. And I'll tell you now, bluegrass used to make me so sad that I couldn't listen to it. Like, I've been around bluegrass my whole life. Right. Couldn't listen to it because it made me really sad.
That's when it's working.
Apparently, once I got older, I figured it out. I was like, oh, it's supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, he showed me so much in the ways of country music and shit I didn't know about. Like, he showed me Doug Somm and like the Sir Douglas Quintet.
Mm-hmm.
Just changed my life.
And then you turned me on to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like, man, he puts out it's such a good thing that I want to do the best. Like, if I can't play it, like, I have to play it like John Bonham, in a sense that it has to be as good as a John Bonham level,
right?
Or I don't feel like I should be playing.
Yeah, but I mean, I was saying that in regards to your lyric writing. I mean, that's
absolutely. But I'm saying it in regards to my drumming. I'm like,
you got that down
perfect.
Well, I mean, that's not a problem. You got that. Everybody, I can't remember what episode it is, but go please check out the episode that I did on Hot Rod. It was fun to do that because I made it sound like I didn't know who you were the whole time. And you were fucking playing my drum set in that video.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I'm like, okay, stop this madness. I know this.
I didn't know you had a whole lot to say because I didn't play much different than the just the regular beat.
Well, the thing about that video really was about showing what real drumming is about. You know, I'm the YouTube drum channel that rails against, shreds. You know, fucking, another hot rod, fucking drummer in his basement playing 64th notes, and like
Can't do those.
that's not real world drumming. You know what I mean? What I would use your video, and that's what I waited for. I was either going to use you or Abel Boreal because I think that you sound like Abel Boreal.
God, you should have just used Abel Boreal Jr., man.
Well, I'm going to eventually. I'm going to eventually. There's no good ones. That's a fucking crime that's going on right now. Is like so many drummers that we love, because I know, we love Lee Von Helm. We love Abel Boreal Jr. YouTube is so geared towards drum Olympics that those subtle Jim Keltner guys get lost because it's not like, fucking look how fast that motherfucker's playing.
Yeah.
But we know that's shit that gets you fired.
Yeah.
And it's not stuff that lasts. Like, you listen to, I'm not going to name one, but listen to somebody playing the craziest, fastest stuff you can play, and it's gone in a second. Whereas you're playing on songs that are going to be, loved and adored for decades to come, that have enriched people's lives. And that's far more important as a drummer, to do that, to facilitate that art, because that's what lasts. You know what I mean? Like, Dave Weckles never touched anyone in the soul. And I'm sorry, I fucking hate Dave Weckles. I know, dude. I know I run a drum channel, but I hate.
I had no idea.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it.
You never owned them sticks, brother?
He's so good. I do have a pair. He's so good, but like, it's just like.
You ever watch that trio video of him, Gad, and Vinny Colaiuta?
Of course.
Dude, I come back to that all the time. Like, I watch him more than I'd care to admit.
Oh, dude, of course, man. And Gad and Vinny fucking kill it. And Dave does too, but there's just something about what he does I can't stand. I'm going to get killed in the comment section. But my point, and the reason, my point is,
okay, man. You know what the best part about music? It's subjective, and everybody can have an opinion. And that's
you don't run a YouTube channel. You obviously haven't not had a comment
I'm
section.
too nice and happy, like most 94% of the time.
Yeah. But, that video that I did on you was to, get out there that, like, you were just playing a 16th note groove, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you were putting, but the subtlety stuff in there where you're playing that accent, rocking the stick back and forth and getting that, that shaft on the side of the hi-hat, those little things. It's one of my favorite videos, and not just because you were in it. It's because those are the little things that students and people who are trying to really make music need to think about. And not just like, hey, bro, do you even double bass at 275 beats per minute?
Yeah, and I won't lie and say I came up with that because I was fortunate enough to be in a situation where Tyler got to record songs that we've been playing for a while with some A++ musicians.
Yeah, so the drummer on the records is
Miles Miller.
And he is Sturgill Simpson's drummer.
Yes.
Okay.
And he is an amazing drummer.
Yes.
I love him to death. He's taught me so much, whether he's known it or not.
So there you go.
So much about playing
so drums. Right in with what we've been talking about this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
You're just this student, and you're just picking up teachers as you go.
Yeah.
You started with your dad, then band director, drumline instructor, and then Steve Hall in college, and then Tyler teaching you about country music, and now talking about Miles. You are the essence of what you should be looking to do with your musical career. Is you're never done. You're always
Once you're
looking.
Done, you need to quit.
Yeah, keep that shit in the case.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because you gotta adapt, you gotta learn, but at the same time, it's like, man, you can always learn stuff from people.
Yeah.
And Miles taught me a lot about how to play this music. And honestly, the version on the record is about the third version of White House that I've ever played, third or fourth that we've ever played.
That song's evolved a bunch.
When we started playing with Tyler before all this, we had like a few years of just gigging and just playing it as what we came up with. He was like, well, I got this song that I've always just played solo. So it's changed 3 or 4 times.
Right.
And now we just play it like the record. And now even then we play it like the record, but we have our own live spin to it.
Right.
You know, and it's like Todd Zuckerman, the great drummer that plays with Styx.
Yes.
Since like 96 or whatever. I invoke his technique on 16th notes on the hi-hat, and you're just cutting the steak, bud.
Yep.
You know, that's your, and couple that in with, you bring in the James Gadsden from Bill Withers. If you think about
Use Me Up.
Use Me. You're playing those 16th notes about this tall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then if you're cutting the steak only about this high, it's the sweetest tone, sweetest touch on the planet.
Are you still using those gigantic 16 hi-hats?
No.
Okay. So you got over
anymore.
that. So what are you?
I went down to 14s like we went on that first tour out west. So when Purgatory first came out.
Okay. So yeah, I'm glad you got past that because I hated playing on your drum set with those 16s. So let's talk about that though. So through playing in one of the biggest country artists in the world, basically. Because I mean, before you did the Sturgill, you were on tour in Europe, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, how many countries have you been to with him?
With Tyler, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know, about 10.
Okay.
Something like it.
So yeah, I mean, through that, now you have gotten some sponsors.
I got 2. But your boy here is happily sponsored. I got Bosphorus Cymbals first.
Yeah, I remember that.
Playing with it was the night before Margot Price playing at the Ryman, our first time we ever played the Ryman.
Okay.
And I cold emailed Bosphorus, was like, hey bub, this is what I'm doing. I'm playing the Ryman like tomorrow. And where they're in Turkey, I got an email in like the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep. I was on the floor. We were in this cabin. The night before the first time I played the Ryman, I was sleeping on the floor in a sleeping bag.
Yeah, buddy.
My phone just dings. And it was, we would love to offer you a 75% discount.
Woo, woo.
And I was like, oh my God. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, well, this is just how you do it.
Yeah.
You just cold email people and like you get what you want. But no, they've been great. They've been really super awesome. I love Bosphorus Cymbals. They're really awesome. That's what I play now.
So you were the Celeste. We can get a little gear nerd, and it's something that you actually kind of turned me on to. The guy from Dolls as well, using those gigantic crash cymbals. And the thing that I talk about, you're playing a lot, is it is so Abel Borealish in the sense that you just have this really nice, consistent behind the note. We've talked about this a lot on the channel, people. Behind the beat feel. And when you play those big, huge, like 18, 19, 20-inch crash cymbals that are real thin, it even helps with that style because it attacks after you hit it.
It's full body.
Right? So, I mean, you've got the initial attack, but then because it's so big and it takes a while to open up, it makes your playing really behind the beat. If you notice, Abel Boreal does the same thing too. And those cymbals, they almost like play slow. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's really just the body of it and the full wash I think about. Because, I mean, I only hear it from my perspective.
Okay.
And I hear videos and stuff like that. But the bigger cymbal, I mean, if it's a concert, I don't think you should play less than an 18.
Dude, I haven't used less than an 18 since you kind of turned me on to that.
And
I never got behind the
18,
16-inch hi-hats, but the 18, 19
turned into 18s turned into 16s for me. But now I rock a 20 and a 22.
So your setup is to ride, crash, hi-hat.
That's it. That's it. And the SW, like the syncopated ride on my left, 20, and then an antique 22 on my right, and they both wash great. But man, it's really just like when you start to get powerful. I mean, you can hit it subtle, and it still has a great wash, and the stick definition's all there. And I can ride over here and get a different tone. I can ride to my right and get another tone. But
So
man,
it's
when you
almost like a jazz setup in that sense. So you just got
oh yeah,
two big
most
crash
definitely.
new rods, and that's probably something. Would you say that like studying jazz music and seeing how those cats are able to manipulate rods to have crash sounds and ping
Yes.
sounds and like that's straight from your jazz playing, right?
Yes, most definitely, because listening to people like Max Roach and
Mm.
um, uh, like Jimmy Cobb and Art Blakey and stuff like that, they only played with rides. It was always just two rides,
Yeah.
and the sounds they got out of it, and they were fortunate enough to have played cymbals in the heyday of when like what we aspire cymbals to sound like now. We all want 60s and 70s Zildjians and 50s and 60s,
Everybody,
Pisces
dude,
and
every
stuff like
company's
that.
trying to be a K right now.
Yeah. We want those old sounds, and the way they manipulated that was super cool and super eye-opening, that you don't need 16s.
I don't,
As a
man. I haven't played. I think
There's a
since you
place
turned me
for 'em.
on, I haven't touched this. The only time I've played a 16 was I was doing a musical and I needed volume issues.
There's
It
a
was a
place
volume
for
thing.
them.
But yeah,
If it's honestly anymore, if it's below 19, it's sound effect.
yeah, I hear you. I hear
You
that.
know what I mean?
So you got Bosphorus first, and I remember like, ooh, I'm very fortunate. Like I say this all the time, I'm all my friends' least talented friends because I have so many of you friends that
Shut
are
up.
in such a big way. We know Jimmy. When Jimmy got his first bass string endorsement, I was like, "Can you send a man some GHSs, baby?"
What's a guy got to do for some flat
You
wound?
know what I mean, dude? Like to have those round wounds if you can. So remember you getting that Bosphorus, and I think you sent it to me like it was late night, and I was just like, man, what's a man gonna do to get a 21-inch round here?
That's it, Bobby. That's it. Come mow my grass a little bit.
So you, and this is the story of my life. You've played my drum set up until how long ago?
Last August.
So then I remember because it's a Tay kit that you had, and I was telling you, I was like, dude, try to get Tay or Ty. I don't know how you fucking say it.
I think it's
So
Tay.
they're a Canadian company. I was
I
like,
called
dude,
them Tasties.
Tasties. You're not
Are
the
they
first
not
one.
Japanese? Are they
No,
Canadian?
well, I don't know if they're made in Japan, but Tay is out of Canada, as far as I know.
Oh. See, I've
Yeah,
been lying to everyone.
so I remember I
I
was like,
had
dude,
no
you need to
idea.
get on Tay because you'll be one of the biggest artists on Tay.
Oh man,
And
Garth Brooks drummers plays Tay, man.
and then,
He's the
dude, have
biggest.
you watched that Garth Brooks Netflix special yet?
I'm for one episode deep.
Oh, we'll watch them all and we'll get together off screen for that.
Yeah.
I love Garth, but I think he's got too much money. I think that reality doesn't exist. He's got a Tom Cruise feel about him right now. If that makes
That's
sense.
okay. That's okay. We need a Tom Cruise of country.
Yeah. But so then Ludwig just calls you?
No, 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 no. I hounded them,
Ah, there you
and
go.
not so much hound. It was so much that uh, I sent them like a cold email, never heard anything, and then I was in touch with the drummer for the Drive By Truckers, had a guy, and they were like, just message him. I did that, never heard anything, and then I kind of like a buddy of mine from New York was like, "Hey man, I know a guy that works at Ludwig,"
Okay.
and he was like, "You need to be sponsored."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, I love Ludwig. I only want to play Ludwig."
Right.
You know, that's I feel like sometimes drummers are just like Ludwig or Gretsch.
I'm that way about Premiere, and I'm that way about
Yeah.
Premiere because not many people play them.
Yeah.
I don't like that idea.
And I mean, this might be wrong, and I could be totally off base, but I feel like the hierarchy is it starts with Ludwig and Gretsch, and then it's like once you pick one, and then you go down the list with like other companies falling in under it, where they
Right.
like kind of stack up between Ludwig or Gretsch, but you kind of start with their characteristics on each one going down. But you know, I've played a lot of Gretches. I played a lot of Gretsch in college. That we had a Gretsch Brooklyn that I had to play on a lot.
I was
I
gonna say,
liked it.
wasn't Ben sponsored by Gretsch? Didn't you have a bunch of Gretsch there?
I don't. I have no idea. I
Okay,
have no
because I
idea.
think Ben
I think
Miller at one point was
we
endorsed.
just bought. I think they just bought that kit because we needed a real live jazz kit.
I hear you. I hear you.
And Gretsch. I mean, honestly, Gretsch is the sound of jazz.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
That you can also say Slingerland a little bit. You know, there was a lot of
yeah,
those cats were playing Slingerland. A lot of those cats were playing Rogers as well.
yeah.
Like that, you know, the tattoo you have, that's the Neil Peart snare drum. You know,
Really,
all that Neil Peart shit is on a Radio King. You know,
really.
if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure a Rush loon will tell me in the comment section, but I'm pretty sure the same Radio King is on every Rush record.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So what's your setup that you're playing now that you've got?
I
Sweet ass Ludwigs.
play a Ludwig Classic Maple, and I love the 2012-14 setup.
Oh yeah, because that Tay I gave that I had you, dude, just keep that drum set. It came with a 20 and a 22, right?
Yeah, yeah. So you set me up with all the options.
Yeah, that was the idea
And
behind getting that.
yeah, and it's actually sitting over here right now with the quiet tone heads on it.
So you know, let's talk about that for a second. Like, you know, you're supposed to be gigging. You know, this first part of this conversation would have been a lot about this gigantic tour that you would have been on. What have you been doing in the quarantine? Like, have you just been practicing? Have you been trying to do any like remote playing? Have you been trying to record?
Up until about a week ago, I was practicing 2 hours a day.
Nice.
Just had like a schedule to myself and like trying to nail down like styles and stuff a little better. Playing to a lot of songs, learning a lot of songs, like different songs. Just keeping technique comfortable, getting it less because I feel like while we were playing those arenas, I started hitting harder because
Well,
I felt
how
like
can you
I
not?
had to. And then I was like, nah, man, you got to do that.
Let's talk about that then. Well, no, stick a pin on that. So, what have you got to do any like recording? Like, you know, lots of people have been doing like quarantine jamming and
No,
remote
honestly,
jamming.
as a drummer, I haven't recorded a lot ever in my life,
Really?
and we had a couple Deadbeats records, and you know, done some of that, but it's never enough to like keep it fresh or know what I'm doing. But I did buy some gear while we've been off, and I've just been like trying to figure out what sounds good,
Okay.
like recording drums and stuff like that, and just trying to figure that out.
So that's the next thing that you're going to end up, you know, in your, you know,
Yeah, there's some
traveling
people.
to enlightenment is now you're going to have to find, you know, that engineer, producer, teacher guy that's going to tell you, hey, this
Exactly,
is
and
what
I've
needs to be
watched
on
a
a
lot of
bass
YouTube
drum.
videos and stuff, but I'm figuring out I know it sounds good, and I know it sounds good when I hear it, but, I mean, there's a few people that are sending me stuff for the next week or so that want me to play on it, and I was like,
Okay.
"Yeah, man, let's do it," you
This is a
know?
great this is a great time for you to kind of advertise yourself. Like Hot Rod, you're for sale, right? You're ready to record on
Anybody
people's
would
stuff.
like for this ass to play on on your record, just send it my way, we'll talk.
Where would you hit him? Where would they hit you on your Instagram, Hot Rod?
Rod Elkins Drums on Instagram or rodelkinsdrums@gmail.com.
Slide in his DMs.
Slime them DMs, emails, baby.
So, like, let's get back to this journey that you've been on now. How long have you played with Tyler? How long has he had you all?
5 or 6 years now.
So that's what I wanted to talk about. Like, you know, going from playing the V Club to playing the ramen. Have you all done Red Rocks yet?
Oh yeah.
Okay. What, as a drummer, do you think is, because I've played in civic centers a few times, just maybe 4 or 5 times, and it's so scary, especially when there's no one there and you hit the snare drum and it comes back to you like 2 seconds later. Like, what have you had to change about your playing from, you started in the clubs with your family, and then, started playing in theaters, and now you're up to this, to this level where they have to put you all in a civic center. What approach did you feel you needed to change, or that you had to learn to do that? Do you feel that you have to play differently technique wise from playing in a club to Madison Square Garden?
No, I don't think so. Actually, after having done what we've done now, it needs to stay the same. You have to relax.
Right.
You have to let the drums speak. You have to not change a damn thing.
I hear you.
Because I mean, you can make your louds a little louder, your
Right.
softs a little softer, but at the same thing, it's like the mics are going to pick up your relaxation.
Right.
And that's what makes drums sound good.
Right. So,
Is you relaxing.
but do you feel that you try to keep on, like, on stage volume down for that very reason?
Well, last September we switched to in-ear monitors.
Okay.
So I'm not too sure about our stage volume at the moment.
Okay. But when I meant by stage volume, I meant like your monitor volume. Like, when you
Yeah,
get on a big
I want
stage,
to keep it that way.
because when you get on a big stage, I know for me, when I got on my first big stages, I was like, turn this shit up.
Yeah, when we played Rupp, it was,
The Rupp Arena.
the adrenaline is pumping. You're gonna want to bash them.
Right.
If there's anything I could say, is you have to maintain that relaxation and just do what acoustically would sound good.
So basically, you're trying to not change your mentality of how you would have approached playing at a club.
Absolutely.
Ah, there you go, people. That's one, that's one. I think a lot of people would think that because you're in a big room that you would want to feel like you needed to over.
I feel like the more you overplay in a room, the more the room's going to work against you.
I hear you.
You match the room when you're relaxed, and it works in your favor and picks up those tones. You let the drums speak at that point.
I hear you.
You're squashing if you nail it super hard.
Right.
Right? These drums are made a certain way with certain woods for a reason. Okay, they need to speak. You need to let those drums speak.
Right.
And let the engineer take care of it if you have one.
That's where you have to trust your front of the house.
Absolutely. Because the more you bash, the less quality of tonality that you're going to get out of it.
Now, for all you heavy metal people, they're going to bitch in the comments section. We're talking about playing in a country band.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, different scenarios require different ways of playing.
But that's where I like about your playing is you play drums the way I like them played. I mean, we are Levon Helm fanatics, and you just let the drum do the work, and you let the stick do the work.
Well, Levon's drums are so dry they chafed.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
There's only so much tone he can get out of that, but
that's true.
That's where the soul takes over.
Yeah, boy. Only drummer that can make you cry. So let's talk about some of the big shit. So, a lot of Tyler fans probably don't know that, your band that you put together that was just playing around town ended up, connecting with this, once in a lifetime artist, and you all build this thing together. Talk about, like, from the beginnings of playing, down the street to playing all over the world. Like, what was that process?
That was a fun process. That was a just super exciting time. You know, I didn't put any of these bands together. It was always a collective. It was always a, you know, us just trying to make great music.
Right.
And then it was, we got a work van. And then we were driving around, and it had a bench seat that was just welded to the wall, splitting the gas money. James had a Bluetooth speaker. That was the radio. It was like, I think the fire department owned it. So it had 0 like panels on the walls. So it was just a solid metal cage. And before that, we were driving our own cars, but we were playing like this festival in Paducah, Kentucky. That was awesome. And then we were playing a lot in like Chillicothe, Ohio, and Circleville, Ohio, and like Charleston. Did Morgantown a few times, and it's pretty regional. And it was just, you know, man, I always just believed in it. And I just knew it was going to be awesome. I knew it was going to be great. It's going to be huge.
Well, it was already awesome, just not everybody had found that out yet, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And, I mean, man, it's been a wild ride. And I can't almost remember all of the early things because it was just, like, super fast.
Right, because you all went from, you know, selling out 400 or 500 seat clubs, selling out theaters. Hello, Hand.
That's my beer hand.
Hi, Hand. Tell her I said she'll know what I mean. So you went from there to theaters, and then of course, you know, sans a quarantine, you would have done a completely sold out arena tour.
A lot of cool bars, a lot of cool like little festivals. And
what is the number one? What's the number one where you're just like, what the fuck am I doing here? I cannot believe that we're doing this thing. Because I know that you've probably become callous probably to it because you've done so much over these last 2 or 3 years. But what was that one where you're like, man, I wish the whole Elkins clan could see this moment.
You asked me too fast. I don't even think I can recall one of those right now.
It's not like a Ryman. It's not a Grand Ole Opry.
Well, my parents were at the first Ryman, and maybe opening for Willie, I was just like, I can't believe we're doing this.
This is a thing that's happening.
This is a
thing that and again, I've got to get this over. This is a thing that's happening to you and your 2 high school friends, right? You and James and Craig grew up together.
I don't know how many times. Well, yeah, we went all through high school together, but I don't know how many times, you know, I would hug Craig. Like, I always loved tearing down at the end of the night. So we don't have roadies or anything. We always don't have roadies down. No. They may, like, there's people that, like, load on this last one, there's people that loaded the semi. And there's people that loaded the bus or the trailer, you know. But we would always either help load in or help load out a little bit, but we would always set up and tear down ourselves. We still do.
That's so Appalachian. I love you all.
And well, I mean,
I thought you had a tech by now. I figured you had a tech.
Hell no. Jared Hawley knows he cannot quit his job and just tech for me right now. I can't afford that.
He might have been able to if you wouldn't have had this tour canceled.
Exactly. Might have some money saved up.
No doubt.
But no, I don't know how many times we would tear down. I would just like hug Craig or hug James. Like, can you believe we just did that?
Like here's your band that you know, cats that you were in school 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade through college. And dude, I think it's just one of the best stories in any touring band right now. That like you've got these best friends and you've all played together for years. You know, that's something else that I think I hope Tyler fans are seeing. Now, obviously, you have some auxiliary members that weren't in Deadbeats and Barkers in that band now that are killer.
Right. Well, yeah. But, Jeffy and Chase, they're amazing musicians.
That fiddle player is
Jesse's amazing.
That's hot grease
Hayes
fire,
is
man.
amazing. They're
But
so glad to know him.
you three have got this chemistry that happened before Tyler, so he was able to just plug in. Like, here's these three guys that have played together, know each other's playing, and have hundreds of hours of playing, and their notes rubbing up against each other. And
I mean, I feel like I know. I can honestly say I feel like I know what Craig's going to do and James is going to do before they do it.
Oh,
even though we kind of like have a program for each song now, but at the same time when they vary or if we try things, it's like I'm pretty confident in saying that they know probably what I would do before I do it too.
And as musicians, you can't buy that, and you can't take a shortcut to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's hundreds of hours that have to be involved in playing to get to that level. And that's the difference between a band and a group of musicians who've been put together for a project.
You really have to put the time in. You really have to get to know. You have to just play with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because you can do things by yourself all day long, but you're never going to get any better than playing with other people that make you play different.
Right.
That give you the ideas of going to a place that you didn't think you could go to.
And now you've been able to, keep, do this long journey with your two best friends, man. How fucking cool is that?
That's the best part, man. I'm on the road with my family.
Dude.
Like, they're my brothers. Honestly, other than James and a little bit of Craig, maybe it's just me, but we've been through like different ladies and just like seeing the whole world together.
Yeah.
And it's God, did I tell you how lucky I am?
Again.
Did I say that again?
Again, drum students who are watching. He's saying that he's lucky, and he is, but he got to be lucky because he prepared.
He put the hard work.
He was ready, and he put that hard work.
I care about drums. I care about music. I always want it to be perfect. I know it'll never be perfect, and I know that I don't always play perfectly. I know that I don't always fulfill my duties every night, and that's not for lack of trying.
Yeah.
Because the road beats down on you, man. Not everybody's feeling 100% every night, and then you just make it work every night. And I throw out 100% every night. I don't necessarily reach that goal every night.
I mean, that's everybody, dude. I mean, Jeff Beck has said that sometimes he thinks he's the greatest guitar player that's ever lived, and sometimes he might be the most rubbish guitar player that's ever lived. That's Jeff Beck. You know what I mean?
And that couples with like anxiety too. It's like sometimes the gigs get in my head a little bit.
I hear you. So
when I think about like the Ryman, or he goes, I want to play perfect at the Ryman.
Right. But see, then again, you can get into the subjectiveness of that, of what is perfect. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like is it because you nailed every note correctly, but maybe it's clinical? You know what I mean?
Doesn't mean it's great.
Exactly. One of the biggest fights I ever had of course it was fucking with a sax player. Like, we played a track, and all the notes were there, but there was just no mojo. It didn't have any feel at all.
Yeah.
And this saxophone player was just like, all the notes are perfect. I'm like, who gives a fuck? This feels terrible. Like, it's not a good track just because you get all the notes right. That's something we talk about a lot on the channel. Is it's not just because I always talk about, like, you don't get a trophy for getting all the notes right. Did you make everything feel good? Absolutely. That's what you're talking about with like perfection.
I feel like my personal philosophy is that every night's a little different, and then it's just making that night perfect or good. I mean, I'm throwing around perfect like it's something I achieve all the time, and it's not.
Well, I mean, you strive for it, and then hopefully you get greatness in the striving for perfection.
It's making each night fun and like still good at the same time.
Does he still not use set lists?
Oh yeah, no, we have hand signals.
So explain that for the Tyler fans. I'm trying to do this. It's my first interview on this series. I'm trying to give us a bunch of drum walk stuff, but we also want to service Tyler fans who are going to be here.
Tyler,
Explain the hand signals, because the only other person I've ever thought to do or know to do that is Zappa. Zappa did that.
Tyler has an innate ability to read a room and play the songs that fit the room.
Okay,
And he's
that's Jedi
really
shit.
good at it.
That's a Jedi
He's
shit.
really good at just like making the set list. And there's like times now where maybe we'll group some songs together that we'll start with a few nights in a row or something like that, especially if we're in different cities. You know, things that feel good, like, well, that felt good last night, let's do it again. You know, like the same kind of like groupings of 3 or 4 songs. But for a long time now, I think we maybe made set lists on the back of pizza boxes the first year, if my memory serves any correctness right now, which I doubt it does. But it was not long that we just started doing signals with like Feathered Indians,
Okay,
or Dead Man's Curve, you know, the X's over the eyes.
right.
Hounds to Heaven just looks like a wolf, you
Right.
know, like hounds.
That is Zappa. Zappa did shit like that.
Yeah, and White House Road, you know, because he's talking about cocaine.
Yeah, buddy.
So we just touch your nose, and we just know it's White House.
That's
And
crazy.
it's just how the crowd's reacting, how the room's feeling and stuff. And
Wrestling
then
fans call it calling it in the ring.
calling it in the ring, buddy. And it's keeps you on your toes. It makes shows exciting for us.
Right.
We don't get bored because we're just the whole time, you know, and like if Tyler maybe only tells me, it's my job to like tell everybody else. If he only tells Craig, Craig's got to tell everybody else.
What's the signal for Trudy?
It took me a second.
There you go.
Been off
Been
the
on the
road
road too long, Hot Rod.
yeah, because it was there was a few where it was always like White House,
Right.
or let's see, Honky Tonk Flame was like a flame, so it was always Honky Tonk Universal, like Universal.
Yeah.
So it was always Honky Tonk Universal Trudy. Call up Trudy on the telephone. So
That's
we
great.
were just
That's great.
that one.
So,
Yeah.
man, you all are not, you know, even though you're in a, you're in a arena situation. I think a lot of people who don't do that probably assume that this shit is rehearsed down to the most minute detail, and you cats are just going out there like you're playing at a bar.
Yeah, I mean it's a little more fine toothed than that.
Well, I'm saying in the sense that, like, you know, if you go see Garth Brooks, you're going to see the same set list at the same exact order every night, and you know the lighting system is going to be.
I've only seen him once.
Oh, for sure. Like any of those big, like, dude, we got a friend that does that shit, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Like,
I guess where I'm it changes every night for us.
That's not going to happen. Like, you got to figure, like,
I feel like that's the only way you should do it.
That's the only way I like to do it. I love calling it in the ring. Now, for the sake of, like, maybe you got to catch a buzz, I like to, because especially with even in Sasha's band, I'll have the names of the songs there because I can't remember them all. And then I'll be like, well, it feels like ballad time. I think that's the best way to go about it because you don't know what that crowd wants. You don't know how to work that crowd.
Tyler's really intelligent with that, with reading the room. And
well, and again, that's what my point is, man. If you go see Kiss, they're going to do that same set list every night, and that explosion's going to happen the same fucking way every night.
I mean, you can't deviate from the pyro, brother.
So when you'll start getting pyro, that's when you'll start getting set list.
Can't. I mean, you can pyro Dr. Love, but you can't pyro Dr. Love in the wrong spot. You know what I mean?
Because I know Hot Rod's a Kiss fan, I had to bring that up. But you all are kind of like, that's a big ballsy move. To, like, you know, here you're playing in front of 35, 40,000 people.
I mean, maybe I'm biased, but all his songs are Money in the Bank.
Yeah, they are.
And,
yeah, they are.
And I mean that in the sense that they're great songs.
Like, yeah.
Not anything about money, but it's just like, I mean, dude, he's just an amazing songwriter, and he comes up with the greatest songs, and they're just so much fun to play. And I guess, like, my anxiety comes out when I just want them to be the best they can be all the time.
Right.
you know, and like there's some songs where, you know, I play my parts, and there's some songs where I've played what like Miles has put down on the records now. And a good practice thing I do now is I have a playlist of just the 2 records and like the Red Barns and stuff like that. And then I just hit shuffle. So it's like he's calling the songs, and I've got a split second to react.
So you're practicing like you're going to be doing that on stage. That's
because
smart.
honestly, it is a split second reaction sometimes where he's just like born again, and he'll just start. And there's some songs he starts
Right.
with just, you ever chunked? And I call chunked where you hold the strings on an acoustic and you count it off.
Yeah.
You're chunking.
Mm-hmm.
So you ever chunked in an arena with thousands of people? I have Dumbo ears, just like. Is he counting it off? Is he counting it off right now?
Well, man, we've been talking for about an hour and a half. Seems like.
A little longer than that, please.
Yeah, maybe so. So let's wrap this thing up. Like, what's next? I mean, are you off for the rest of the year? I know that like that's really a big thing that's going on now. Like,
that's a little up in the air. There's nothing in the foreseeable future that. I mean, things are canceling left and right. Honestly, right now, we would just be off for a spell to kind of rejuvenate from the Sturgill tour that we were going to be on. That, I mean, honestly, would have ended a week to 2 weeks ago, depending. And we would have been off. We think we maybe would have had 1 gig this month, and then there was a Europe thing in July that was going to happen, and I don't think that's happening anymore. But other than that, man, it's up in the air. We're going to take it, you know, a couple months at a time.
I don't even know what the future of gigs look like right now.
Buddy, now's the time to get just making records.
Again, if you all want Hot Rod for your recording project, you can have the drummer for Tyler Childers, and you just hit him up where again?
Rod Elkins Drums at gmail.com.
And you can have that Colgate smile on your record that gleams through. So, man, Hot Rod, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. This is the first time I wanted to do it with somebody who I think deserved it. You know, you obviously do. I can't wait to buy Modern Drummer with you in it. That's gonna happen.
That might not ever happen, dude.
Yeah, dude, I'll bet you anything. I'll bet you.
Man,
dude.
I'm just gonna say your name every time they ask me a question.
Dude, I mean, come on, man. Who was the guy out back of work telling you don't go to Belmont, go play in Tyler's band because you're gonna be the biggest thing ever?
I didn't want that student loan debt, Bubby.
Well, that's another one. I think that
price tag
might have been the one that got you even more than like Tyler's worth it. Is like, dude, do you really want to add more debt, bro?
Okay, so last thing about that, I took Feathered Indians for the audition. I wrote it out, music like in notes on sheet music, and I had to bring 2 songs, and I took Blue Monk by Thelonious Monk and Feathered Indians on sheet music for each instrument, and just handed it out, and we played Feathered Indians.
That was your Belmont audition?
That was my Belmont audition. And then I did Blue Monk second line style. So it was like New Orleans style.
Yeah, buddy, that's my shit
right. Those were the 2, and then I got selected, and then I was like, no, that's too expensive. There's this fella I'm playing with. I think he's gonna do good things.
I'm gonna be playing Red Rocks in 3 years.
I just want to see what that's like.
Yeah,
because I believe
that was a great choice. That was a great choice. Well, man,
totally up in the air.
Well, Hot Rod, thank you for being on the first episode of Know Your Role. I love you, man. I'm so proud of everything that you all have gotten to do. I think that you've all been able to put a spotlight in an area that has long deserved it, because we've all been pretty damn good around here. Just no one else has figured it out yet.
Absolutely. And I'll tell anybody who wants to know about it.
You know what I mean?
That there's too much talent and too much good people here to not notice.
Yeah, man, you all are you're shining the spotlight. You know what I'm saying? So, brother, thank you very much, man. I will,
You're welcome.
We'll bend the elbow soon.
Let's do it, Bubby. Love you, man.
I'll see you, brother.
All right, see ya.